Anything? Anything now? How about now? Um, yeah. Do we have sound now? Is that working? Okay. All right. How about did you hear the music in the beginning? I'm going to try to play the music and see if you can hear the music. You're hearing the music now? Are you hearing the music? Okay, good. Okay. Yay. So I think we're in business. So yeah, I mean, Shay is in a little country called Liechtenstein, which is halfway between Switzerland and Austria. He's been there for 2 weeks. So he's not here to save me today. I actually pulled it out from what he had showed me to do in the exotic underpinnings, and it's the first time I've ever done it myself. Oh my God. Sometimes reality just gets so bright you got to put your sunglasses on because it's just too much. It's you got to chill, pull back, pull out your Buddha mind, and walk the tightrope as if nothing, all the stuff that's going on in the world is happening at all. You're just, in another spot, another place. So Liechtenstein is one of the highest GDP per person country in the entire world. Only 30,000 people live in this whole country, so that's pretty amazing. And they're all like wealthy, and everybody gets everything they need. Pretty interesting. And Shay is putting in a huge installation of 12 chairs in this giant space that is for healing and meditation and longevity, and it's very impressive. As a matter of fact, I have a video here, I believe. Let's see if I can pop this up so you can see it.
Okay, so yeah, been busy here. The chair is rearranged now. Space is feeling very good. When I hit play now, I got sound in all of the chairs, so it's good. Now at this point, it's just cleaning up. Yeah, you can see. Got our network devices for the audio. Got all of our amps. Got another one of these on the other side. All of these chairs can be played together to a track at the same time with a group, or in smaller groups of 2 or 3 or whatever configuration you want. Yeah, it's pretty cool. This is 108 longevity in Liechtenstein. Come check it out.
Running back, she just laughed.
So anyway, that's a glimpse of Liechtenstein and the big facility thing that we're doing there. Very cool. The see here, get this down. So today we are traveling far back to our indigenous roots. We've had many discussions about this in the past. That it's the reason why I've got my indigenous mask today, in order to, you're in trouble when Dr. Jeff pulls out his masks, because something weird is going to start happening. But this is an indigenous mask that I'm pulling out this time in order to set the tone and the mood. On the other hand, I've got little things like my monkey collection. These are the things that I used to have in my clinic for kids, because my big practice was kids and kids, problems, neurological developmental problems. So I had all these like toys that the kids could play with. Some of those toys were puppets. There's this guy, the baboon. He's pretty cool. Yeah. Baboon, he was nice. Got a tail. Yeah. And this little guy, who's my little Koko. Yeah. This guy used to sit on the dashboard of my car for decades. And then this little guy shows up, and I can't stop him from showing up. He keeps showing up, and I don't know what he is. He's some like frog or some creature from outer space, but he's like always there. Whenever I pull toys out, he shows up and tries to do his thing, So that's my menagerie. Question, about the nature of reality. Always keep questioning. Never accept things at their face value. Nothing is what it appears to be. And with that, we enter into title for today is Koko's Lament. And for those who don't know who Koko is, then this will be new information for you. But I think that everybody has probably heard of Koko, the gorilla. Koko was born into captivity, which says a lot, because essentially we are all born into captivity. One of my favorite sci-fi authors, Kurt Vonnegut, in one of his books, the book opens up by you're traveling down a giant sort of black tube, and at the end of that tube is a bright light, a heavenly light, and you're traveling towards it, and as you get closer, you see that there's a beatific face in this light, and then you pop out, and you're in this bright place, and it smells of rubbing alcohol, and they're hanging you upside down and spanking you and putting acid in your eyes. And if you're a man or boy, they're coming after your penis with a razor blade, and somebody's over there going, "Here's the rules, kid. Welcome to Earth." And it's like, you got clothes, you have to work the rest of your life, you have to make money, you have to you're born into a certain religion, and you have to follow that religion, and here's how you're supposed to think, and here's what you're supposed to do. Born into captivity. Born into a world that we didn't have a vote in a world that is structured in a way that you have to pay taxes and you have to work, and if you don't want to pay taxes and you don't want to work, then you're on the street. Born into captivity. Now, Koko was born into captivity in the born in July 4th, 1971, at San Francisco Zoo. Her initial name was Hanabiko, meaning fireworks child. Later it was shortened to Koko, but the reason that she was named fireworks child was because she was born on the 4th of July, which I thought was kind of interesting. And poor Koko, had a pretty rough life in the beginning. I was born with a serious medical condition and uh, had to be removed from her mother like right away, and then kept an incubator, and they saved her life, but it was quite a number of months before she was able to be normal again, normal at all. Um, Look at that. Look at that baby. Born at the San Francisco Zoo in 1971, she was named Hanabiko, Japanese name meaning fireworks child, because she was born on the 4th of July. And, when she was finally well enough to be released, and she was returned to her mother, the mother rejected her. It had been too long. Rejected her. And so here's this little baby who's been rejected by its mother, and is now in this enclosure in the San Francisco Zoo with a whole bunch of other, gorillas that didn't know who she was, and she was a stranger and rejected by everybody. It was pretty bad. This is the San Francisco Zoo guide, and down here is the Gorilla Preserve Zone. As far as being born into captivity, it's not too bad. San Francisco Zoo is a famous zoo for having excellent care for their animals. This is the visitor center when you first arrive. It looks sort of like Jurassic Park to me. The grounds are large and huge, with enclosures and trees and all kinds of stuff to do. There is a community of gorillas there, young and old, and male and female. So eventually, Koko did have other gorillas his age or her age to play with. But the situation was pretty bad. Rejected by her mother, and sort of not a stranger to the gorilla tribe, and they were all like, nobody was playing with her. She didn't know what to do. She felt alone. She was abandoned. She was getting depressed, in a very tough shape. And there was a university graduate school who came to the rescue and turned Koko into a whole dissertation project, and that was Penny Patterson. She showed up and she became Koko's mother and spent all this time with Koko. And part of what happened there was Penny teaching Koko sign language, and that became the global, worldwide claim to fame of Koko, who learned sign language. And Penny was Stanford University Graduate School. And she was teaching Koko the sign language as part of her PhD dissertation. And Koko quickly demonstrated remarkable intelligence and communication skills. And she learned to understand around 2,000 spoken English words. She could understand English. And she could communicate using about 1,000 hand signs, which is pretty advanced. Really, sort of amazing. Everybody was amazed by her intelligence. And eventually, her intelligence was measured, and she had the intelligence. Her intelligence IQ was about 90. And just to put that into context, the average IQ of a human being on planet Earth on a bell curve is 100. So she was as smart as an adult. She certainly outdistanced all the other gorillas in the enclosure, other gorillas that have been measured, who tend to be around 60 or 70. And that's about the intelligence of a 9-year-old. So Koko was extraordinary, and fate put Koko in this position where, because she had been sick in the beginning and then was rejected by her mother, that Penny Patterson shows up and turns Koko into a project and ends up becoming deeply bonded and emotionally bonded, and a parent figure, the mother figure that Koko never had. That introduced Koko into the human tribe like no other gorilla has ever had. That Koko ended up becoming a bridge between the two worlds, the sort of ancient prehistoric ancestor meeting the modern human that evolved out of that form. Very sort of mind-blowing, and was able to communicate and understand English. 2,000 words of English is a lot. That's and to be able to communicate back with 1,000 signs means that there was quite a mind-boggling dialogue that began to emerge out of this sort of partnership that was happening. The bond that took place between, this gorilla and this human being formed a bridge between our ancient DNA ancestor, who came to be looked upon as a representative of the animal kingdom, making contact with modern humans who have evolved into its present form, where we have stepped outside of the natural rule of things that all other creatures on the planet obey. That human beings alone have stepped outside of the circle of symbiosis, and have, through our sort of arrogance and hubris, have looked upon ourselves as so special that everybody else belongs to us, that the earth belongs to us, that other animals and creatures are lesser than, and that we can do things with them, like experiment on them for face creams and for deodorant sprays and medical research. And this is the stuff of nightmares. But the fact that we have stepped on and stepped out of our circle, our hunting circle, which we are allowed by nature to have up to a point, but we grew beyond that, and we took over the hunting circles of all the creatures around us and spread out until we covered the entire continent. Then we covered all continents, and now we cover the world with 9 billion people. And we have a mindset that this all belongs to us for some reason, and that we are special. It has been to the detriment of our possibility of living on this planet at all, because our destruction of the natural environment proceeds apace. And there is a lot of, chest thumping by politicians about, oh, we need to do something, and the legislation never seems to happen. There has been some international accords, the Paris Accord, and global countries on a global nature having international meetings about cutting carbon emissions and this and that. It's all sort of palaver, so to speak. Some things get done. It's never enough. What needs to be done is to realize that we are at war with ourselves. This is World War III that we're in right now, that we need to to come forward as if the world itself is about to end, that we are killing the planet's ability to support all life forms, not just ours, but all these hapless animals who we have stolen their space and we have taken over and we're destroying the planet, and they can't do anything about it. They are beholden to us as this, quote, superior species to save them and save ourselves, and we are not up to the task so far, which leads us to these live streams and why I have put these live streams on. The concept of the global mind link project, a spiritual scientific experiment to see if we can come together in a collective unconscious way using brainwave entrainment and high-tech science of sound to shift the quantum field and change reality under the hood so that it projects a different movie on the screen that we're all experiencing. That's the concept and the idea. But the concept of Koko and meeting face to face the representative of all other life forms on the planet through her to see what was going on in her head. What did she see about this situation? What did she have to say about this situation? A unique thing where this gorilla now all of a sudden has 1,000 words it can use in sign language and express what she has to think about things, which is pretty mind-blowing idea. To speak with a non-human creature about the nature of reality, the nature of the earth, the nature of people, the nature of everything. It's like, wow, really? And of course, Koko became an international star. National Geographic, cover of National Geographic was just the beginning. It became this incredible story that was unfolding for all of us who watched it over the decades. Really profoundly sort of amazing. And as Koko's fame grew, then more and more celebrities started to show up and ask, can I meet Koko? Can I meet this gorilla who can talk to me? I would like to have a conversation. What would you have? I mean, I would like to go and talk to Koko and have a few questions to ask. What do you think about this and this? Mr. Rogers used to have this, television show for kids. Koko could speak 1,000 words in sign language, understand 2,000 in English, and was an avid Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood fan, the television show. When Fred Rogers met Koko for the show, she embraced him and did what she had always seen him do on screen. She pretended to take his shoes off, because when Mr. Rogers would, when his show would come on, the living room door would open and he would walk through and he would be singing this song of Won't You Be My Neighbor. And while he's singing this Won't You Be My Neighbor song, he walks in, he takes his coat off and hangs it up. He puts his sweater on, this sweater with no sleeves, this iconic sweater thing. And then he comes down the steps into the living room and he sits on a chair and he takes his shoes off. Not to, in a very oriental tradition, that you never wear your shoes in the house. You take your shoes off. So he'd take his shoes off and he would put these special slippers on. And so, of course, when Koko met him, she knew exactly all this stuff because she's got 100 IQ or 90 IQ. She's smart as a person. This was her favorite show, and she's happy to meet him. And of course, first thing she wants to do is help him take his shoes off. That's remarkable. That's sort of amazing. Wow, that's And then Penny started helping Koko paint and make art. Koko wanted to do that, so they got her some paints and she started painting pictures. This is her picture that she titled Love, and this is her picture of a dinosaur. It's like, what? Amazing. I mean, I haven't followed this story up. I'm sure these pictures are worth so much money nobody could ever afford it. It's like, what a trip. Wow. You know, like I said, this whole story of Koko and what Koko represented is a bright moment in reality where I just have to put my sunglasses on because it's just too much. I mean, actually being able to talk with a creature and see what's in their head and in their heart is a phenomenal, mind-boggling story of all time. So, for me, and I've discussed this many times in many live streams, is the loss of our indigenous self, the tragic loss of humanity, stepping out of its symbiosis relationship with all life on the planet, is the central theme. And now all of a sudden Koko represents the voice of nature that you could speak to and ask questions of. That's phenomenal. Wow. Koko had a relationship with all kinds of different animals, but in particular cats really sparked her interest. Koko showed a strong maternal instinct, a desire for a family, even expressing her desire for a baby through sign language. And she developed a close bond with kittens, and researchers brought her a litter of kittens, allowing her to choose one, which she named All Ball. All Ball. Koko asked for a kitten for her birthday. When given a toy kitten, Koko signed Sad and refused to play until she was given a real kitten. So Dr. Penny brought this kitten, and Koko was beside herself with joy. And she played with this kitten and nurtured this kitten like it was her own baby. This itself became a global phenomenon of fame. Pictures of Koko with her kitten, nurturing her kitten and playing with her kitten. There was even a book written about Koko's kitten, which Koko spent hours looking through this book and loved this book. Koko's Kitten. Unflippin' believable, really. So Koko the gorilla named the kitten All Ball. All Ball died in an accident, and Koko signed she was sad and cried alone when no one was around. Koko the gorilla met Robin Williams in 2001, and he made her smile for the first time in 6 months after the kitten died. When he died in 2014, Koko was given the news and she signed the word cry. There were many celebrities like this who met with Koko and had all kinds of amazing experiences with her. She was a force of nature, an amazing story. And, you know, this is the sign for cry. Koko passed away on June 18th, 2018 of natural causes. She was 46. leaving behind a legacy of intelligence, empathy, and the power of communication of a non-human species for the first time in history. Koko's legacy, the Gorilla Foundation, continues and continues to work to honor Koko's legacy and promote understanding and respect for gorillas. But I think in a bigger sense, it should be a legacy of the first window into the heart and soul of a non-human animal that gives us an insight into how sentient and conscious animals are in their own right. While Koko never gave a lengthy speech, she did deliver a brief but emotional message to humanity in 2015 as part of a conversation campaign for COP21, the UN Climate Change Conference. With the help of her caretakers at the Gorilla Foundation, Koko used American Sign Language to string together a powerful message that was later translated into spoken language for the public. And I have that video, which I will show you in a second. The fact and the idea that Koko was born into captivity and never saw the natural environment for which her DNA had designed her speaks deeply to all of us, too, that our ancient ancestors lived in this environment, and that our DNA has designed our body based on blueprints for living in this kind of environment, where we wake with the sun, and the sun rises at a different time every day, slightly different. Right now, we just experienced the spring equinox, where the day and the length are exactly the same length, and the sun is directly overhead at noon. When the day and the night are exactly equal cosmologically, a massive window opens. An aperture opens and widens. And direct connection with the cosmos now becomes possible, much more possible than average and normal. That's a window, the opening of spring, the beginning of spring, the first day of spring, the spring equinox, a cosmological event that used to be celebrated by us, by our ancestors, along with all the other great celestial events that take place. The solstices were celebrated, the year's beginning was celebrated, the equinox was celebrated, there were things that happened, a big shindig was. We celebrated our dance with the universe. Now we don't even know it. Most of the population, spring equinox comes and goes. Nobody even knows it. It's on your calendar, maybe. But it used to be wholly and completely different. Our direct, energetic, living, symbiotic relationship with forces the size of planet Earth, living forces of other creatures that butt up against us in our hunting grounds, where there are certain unsaid rules that everyone obeys, the rules of nature. That this is my hunting space and it's big enough for me and my family and my tribe, and I won't go beyond that space because that's your space. That's your hunting grounds. That's the gorilla tribe and the fox tribe and the wolf tribe and the beetle tribe and the bird tribe and the tree tribe. There is a deep empathy and respect for life and for the sovereignty to have your life. something deep was respected there that humans have stepped away from and that we need to bring back. So when Koko speaks, it's an ancient voice from deep into our DNA past, where we ourselves dropped out of the trees, and we ourselves morphed into our present form, where we talked before about the big toe, the importance of the big toe, changing from a grasping toe like a hand to a straight and solidified toe for being able to walk upright and free your hands to do all the kind of things that we do with hands that have made us a civilization. But it could be so different than what we ended up doing with it. And there's still the possibility of us changing that, which is what these, live streams are all about. So, Koko's message to humanity, powerful stuff. I've saved that video here, so I'm going to show that.
For anyone with dementia, do not drink warm water. Did you know that memory loss is not a condition of the mind?
This add out here. And here we go. Wow. I mean, if there's ever been a time where I need my sunglasses, that's one of them. There was something so deep and profound about that. I sort of am at a loss for words. The sort of profundity is over the top. Koko died June 18th, 2018 of natural causes, age of 40. Actually, it was 46. I did the calculations, but we didn't take into account the birthday. But the legacy, the transcript of what she said. I am gorilla. I am flowers, animals. I am nature. Man, Koko, love. Earth, Koko, love. But man, stupid. Stupid. Koko, sorry. Koko, cry. Time, hurry. Fix Earth. Help Earth. Hurry. Protect Earth. Nature, see you. Thank you. Nature see you. That's pretty heavy. Yeah. And, the sort of story of gorillas, there's been two major gorillas in my life. Aside from the fact that, I collect chimpanzees and monkeys and gorilla and orangutans and stuff like that, and have a deep and abiding interest in the story of evolution. When I was in grade school, I did a project that was a 20-page extra credit thing for a class in school that was all on evolution, the history of evolution, with pictures and stuff like that. The whole thing about evolution. It's been on my mind since the beginning, since I was a kid. It's been an enduring interest of researching back and tracing back the ultimate ancestors of all time, back to the concept of Lucy that we talked about last time, the ultimate mother of all of us, the footprint preserved from our most ancient past, where the big toe went straight and everything flowed from that into our present form. The other gorilla was Ishmael. And Ishmael was a book I read by a guy named Daniel Quinn. And this is another extraordinary thing. If you haven't read that book, you should read that book, because it's about this whole same idea that Ishmael was the name of a gorilla. And there's a man, a young man, probably about the age of my son, in his 30s. And he writes articles, he's a reporter, a freelance reporter. He writes articles, sells some newspapers, and looking through the newspaper, and he sees a notice in the newspaper in the ad section: teacher seeks pupil, must have an earnest desire to save the world. And then there's an address. Come to this address at such and such a time. And it intrigues him, and he can't stop thinking about it. He can't get it out of his mind. So he goes at the appointed time. And it turns out to be a shabby part of town. And it's up on the fifth floor with no elevator. And when he gets there, there's a little sign on the door that says, if you're here from the ad, knock and come in. And so when he knocks and goes in, he's in for a surprise because he doesn't know what to expect. This is Dan Quinn right here. All paths lie together in the hand of God, like a web endlessly woven. And yours and mine are no greater or less than the beetles or the squirrels or the sparrows. All are held together. This was the book. So when this guy goes into this room, if there are still people here in 200 years, they won't be living the way we live, because if people go on living the way we live, there won't be any people here in 200 years. True statement. So when he walks into this room, there's this big, huge gorilla there, sitting in a leather chair. And this gorilla can speak, and he speaks to him, and he says, don't be afraid, don't leave, you're in the right place. I mean, how crazy is this, right? I mean, wow. So the guy sort of sits down, pulls out his notepad, and there are a series of discussions and dialogues. And that is what the book is. The discussions and dialogues with the voice of nature. That Ishmael has been chosen by nature at large to represent all of nature, to come and speak with their human sort of relative who has gone off the path, and to have a heart-to-heart with humanity as a whole. What a concept, eh? Sounds a lot like Koko to me. And, in that discourse, a story emerges where Ishmael sort of recounts the story of humankind, how from, like I said before, the DNA origins that we sprang from, and that all living creatures on the planet have sprung from. And written in that DNA is the laws of nature and how you live in that law of nature with each other and form a massive symbiotic whole of all living life forms on the planet. The concept of Gaia, the living force of the planet, the biome, that you are part of with your brothers and sisters of all other living things. But it's a story of humanity dividing itself at one point. I have amazing news for you. Man is not alone on this planet. He is part of a community upon which he depends absolutely. So from our first beginnings of dropping out of the trees and changing our opposable big toe to a straight and walking toe that left our hands free, the first mother of all of humanity, Lucy, all DNA eventually leads back to your great grandmother. And so Ishmael's story is about the story of humanity, where there were two types of humanity that emerged. One was the Leavers, indigenous and tribal societies that live in harmony with nature, following the same sustainable practices that all other living organisms follow. Living one with nature and with all the other creatures around, where all creatures give space to one another in the sovereign right to survive and have everything you need, which is all supplied by nature. A symbiotic human relationship with the global world at large, with nature itself, with the living forces that have designed the DNA to be part of this master plan of symbiosis. And then something happened, and a division of humanity stepped out of this path and stepped onto the other fork and became what Ishmael calls the takers, the ones who stepped out of the forces of nature and decided that they were sovereign, and that human beings were dominant and human beings were above and better than, and that the world belongs to humans, and other creatures humans are unconcerned about what happens to them when we take their land and take their hunting grounds and turn it into factory spaces of agriculture to make enough food for us to begin to grow beyond our hunting ground space and take over the entire world. The takers were the modern agricultural societies that seek to dominate and control nature, leading to environmental destruction and unsustainable growth. The taker story, dominant in modern civilization, falsely assumes that humans are the pinnacle of evolution and entitled to control the planet for some reason. In this story was the sort of the myth of human supremacy. Modern culture promotes the idea that humans are separate from and superior to the natural world. This myth justifies unchecked consumption, environmental destruction, and the exploitation of other species, with no heart and no soul and no empathy. This pointed out the fact that the agricultural revolution was a turning point in all the history of life on the planet, where human beings stepped out of the symbiosis and sort of pronounced themselves supreme. The shift from foraging to large-scale agriculture marked the beginning of humanity's dominance over the planet. Unlike leavers, who take what they need and leave the rest, takers practice totalitarian agriculture, seeking to produce as much food as possible to fuel endless population growth. This led to the expansion of hierarchical societies, the depletion of natural resources, and the loss of ecological balance, which is right now destroying the planet. The message is clear, and it's devastating. Where all species follow a natural law. They compete for resources, but they don't seek to eliminate their competition or control the entire ecosystem. Humans, as takers, violate this law by wiping out competitors, species extinction, deforestation, monocultural farming. This unsustainable approach threatens not just other species, but humanity itself. Ishmael talked about the danger of civilizational prison. People in modern civilization are trapped in a self-destructive system, but don't recognize it because they believe this is just how things are. You've been born into captivity. This is the way things are. This is what reality looks like. It solidifies into your consciousness that this is the way it is. Education and media reinforce this belief that civilization is the only possible way for humans to live. True freedom requires recognizing that another way of life is possible, another outcome. Question is, we here in these broadcasts, in this grand experiment that we're doing, this global mind link project experiment, can bring us together using science and entrainment and binaural beats and headphones and cause this to happen and synchronize everybody's brainwaves to exactly the same place. So now we are in the proper configuration to open the door to a different reality at a quantum level. The only thing missing at that point is what kind of world are we all going to create together? And that means that we have to be on the same page there as well. And that is the purpose behind these lengthy presentations that I give every time I do one of these, with fancy schmancy PowerPoints and AI pictures that I put together, and it takes me a whole day to put this together. It's a labor of love. It's an important thing that I am here to do. It's not, this would be a fun thing to do, although it is. I enjoy doing this. It's a profound spiritual obligation that I feel I have. It's why, I will eventually do this. I'll eventually put out a t-shirt that says "Waking Up Sucks." Because with that comes the responsibility that you cannot shuck, that you shoulder this responsibility automatically when you wake up and you see what is so. The beauty and the ugliness all together. That you can't turn a blind eye to what is going on. And in the present case, what is going on is a ramping up in the present period of time of the grand dark and light forces in a cosmic battle for the soul of humanity. This is as big as the game gets. And choosing to incarnate in the body that you currently have, with the unique set of talents that your DNA dictates that you have, gives each person here that would be willing to spend the time to sit with me and listen to an old man ramble on about the nature of reality and what he might be able to do about it. This is a special group. This is a group who recognizes that it's no accident that you chose to incarnate in this time, because you volunteered to help, because you were awake enough from past lifetimes to have already shouldered the responsibility of why waking up sucks. That there's a responsibility that follows you when you leave this world and go back into the continuum and choose to be birthed again out of the conscious responsibility that I have a puzzle piece that can help this situation, and so I volunteer. It's the reason why I'd love to have a retreat where all of the people who are part of this can come together in person and meet one another, because this is the finest group of people that you will meet. The people who understand a spiritual responsibility, which requires a certain level of spiritual maturity, and not being a spiritual beginner or a spiritual noob, which we see in the world with people who just jump on whatever anybody says who's got a white robe and beads on that says this is so. People just follow that and don't even question about it. There's no spiritual skepticism from a mature spiritual mind that at least questions a bit. The present form of humanity, from the standpoint of a doctor who studied all of the biosciences and biochemistry, all the rest, you don't have to be a genius to see that humanity, that all of nature, there's only two forms that I've been able to identify that also don't obey the laws of nature that all other living things obey. I have my space, and this is my space, and this is my feeding grounds, and my space butts up against yours in a massive, infinite mosaic quilt of patches that perfectly fit together. This is my spot, this is your spot, and we all have a sovereign right to survive. So only human beings in a macro form and 2 others in micro form break that rule. One of those is a virus. A virus like the Ebola virus that kills the host because it has unlimited growth. It has no bounds. Its job is to commandeer cells in your body to produce more virus. And those viruses spread to other cells and commandeer those cells to produce more virus. And pretty soon the viral load in your body gets so big that you die. Human beings are like a virus spreading across the planet, killing the host. And the other one is metastatic cancer. Cancer cells run amok. Normal cells that somehow transform and begin to follow the same course that humans are doing, which is unlimited growth in a finite system where unlimited growth is an insane concept. In a finite planet, there cannot be unlimited growth. Everybody is worried when the stock market begins to stall and doesn't continue to grow and continue to grow and continue to grow, because when it stops growing and it starts coming back, if it hits the 0 point and starts to go under that, we've got recession. Oh my God, we're not continually growing anymore. We've got recession. We're going backwards. And overpopulation of the planet to 9 billion people is using up all the resources and polluting the whole system, and it's cancer. Sometimes I feel like I'm a cancer cell that became self-aware and transform myself to meet with the other cells and go into a subterranean realm where we cause a spontaneous remission to take place. That's what this global mind link project is truly all about. To create a spontaneous remission of the cancer of humanity, of the driving force in consciousness that has no empathy, that has no sensibility, that competition is the rule of the day and not cooperation, not symbiosis. 4.5 billion years ago in the primordial ooze on the planet, the single cell, little organisms in the primordial ooze are duking it out for the food morsel, and then something happens. Some Jedi thing happens. And all of a sudden, they get the bright idea that cooperation is superior to competition as a survival outcome. So these cells begin to bind together and share resources and form multicellular organisms that eventually crawl out of the ocean. They become you and me. Now we have a world of multicellular organisms, you and me, duking it out for the food morsels, except it's higher order conditioning. It's not food morsels anymore, it's money. Money that can buy food and can buy other things. My survival token is not food anymore, it's a coin. I had a whole broadcast about this called the Talisman of Power. Go watch that one. It's the head of Caesar on one side of this coin, and it's a talisman of power in the esoteric realm on the other side of the continuum. This coin is separating out physical from metaphysical, and physical is the coin and metaphysical is the coin of the realm of spirit, and where you are in poverty or richness in the realm of spirit dictates the worth of the coin on the other side. We know historically that it's possible to have a spontaneous remission, and all of this just disappears in a single instant, outside of time. 1 second it's here, the next second is not here. It's gone. As if it never existed. That something deep down inside at a core level at the quantum field, consciousness came in contact with the original idea and the original plan and got it. Oh my God, this is what it's supposed to be looking like, not that. So, fleshing out these talks with a variety of different topics about the nature of reality is my attempt to bring everybody to the same page of understanding about how we could answer for ourselves and each other. What world do we want? I can use science and technology to bring us to the place where we have the possibility as group mind and 100th monkey idea to shift the quantum field, but we have to know what we want. There has to be an intention behind that. There has to be a visualization that we can all agree on of what it is we're trying to create. Or once again, it's herding cats. Daniel Quinn, who wrote Ishmael, he talks about the difference in humans between takers and leavers. Leavers are those people who live simplest, the forest people of Borneo, the leaf people of the Amazon, the Tassidaes in the Philippines. We are takers. We're just gobbling up shit. And we're encouraged to do it. It'll be too late before we know it's too late. We, as those who are spiritually mature enough to wake up and see and get the responsibility that comes with that, we are the canaries in the coal mine. We are the growing tip, the tip of the spear. Nobody else is going to do it. You can look out, you can see, it's all talk and palaver and some little things around the edges. When you need the full force of all humanity be standing forward and grabbing their spears and pulling out their spiritual bushido to meet the war of all wars, the war for the soul of humanity, the war for your own soul, who you are in this world and how you participate in this world, and what decisions do you make in this world, of what you support and what you don't support. Your actions change the world. Those things in the world that those companies, those corporations, those products in the world that are based on global rape and ruin, companies who pay no mind that destroying the planet for profit is fine. You don't buy their products. You don't take your talisman of power and give it to them. You take your talisman of power and you support people who've got the same idea that you do, that we need to transform the planet, that we need this and that. It's the only physical in this dimension tool that any of us have got left. The power of the coin, the power of the talisman of power. That's one. Number two is our ability to come together in the etheric realm underneath the hood in our collective unconscious mind and make a new decision about reality. Those two tools are the ones that we can use. Change everything. The world doesn't belong to us. We belong to it. Always have, always will. We belong to the world. We belong to the community of life on this planet. It doesn't belong to us. We got confused about that. Now it's time to set the record straight. Humanity came to a fork, and it chose the wrong one. Similar to the discussions that I've had in the past of the kind of thing I saw with patients in 40 years of practice, where you could have chosen the other path, the one here on the left side, not the right side. We could have, as human beings, chosen this path, a path of deep symbiosis with nature, a planet-wide symbiotic community with all living things. We could have had this. We could still have this. But like I said, each person comes to their own choice in the road. It's inevitable. You're fated to walk the road and fated to come to a fork and fated to make a free will decision. Which fork are you going to take? Over and over and over, moment by moment, minute by minute, day by day, year by year. We have these choices we have to make. When we are conscious and aware and spiritually mature, we know what that feels like. The heart pulls us to the correct choice. Sometimes that's not an easy thing to do, that choice. It's not comfortable. It's not convenient. It's not convenient to be awake and aware and to shoulder the responsibilities. But making the right choice imbues you into the heart and soul of nature, and you rejoin as like the prodigal son returning to the fold. A deep, enlightened communication with the soul of nature. Returned again. And out of that, everything in the world shifts and changes. From this standpoint, you could not possibly spend the talisman of power in any direction, on any kind of product or any kind of thing or any kind of support for anything that didn't support this vision. Stepping back on the correct path and righting the wrongs and making amends. Making it right. And for all of those who have that spark, who are showing up to do our piece, to do our part, that we joyously take this responsibility. It's the bushido of your soul. It's the joyous jumping forward with your sword drawn, the sword of spirit, to tackle the day, to do whatever is necessary, to steep yourself in what is right for the soul, and the soul of the planet, and the soul of all living things. We are the shepherds. We are it is our responsibility to be the shepherds of the world. The other creatures that exist depend on us for their existence. When we're true stewards, then it's possible to make heaven on earth, not just a wild thing. And as more and more people show up, it's what we feel, all of us, happening right now in the world. That the current sort of shit show of the world, the dumpster fire of the world right now, is drawing forth from the grassroots of humanity the people who are stepping forward, like you and me, in large numbers all over the world. I feel it. I see it. I'm meeting these people. They're coming. They're arriving by themselves. Nature organizes organically this global community. Comes of its own. It's not something human beings have the capability of organizing artificially. When nature self-organizes, it's always correct. You fall into it. It has a life of its own. It organizes, self-organizes global agendas that people just get drawn to by themselves. It's an amazing process to watch and to feel and to be part of. The whole thing accelerates and becomes exponential, and that exponential nature expands and accelerates the more conscious effort and intentional effort that you put behind it. Like this, like what we're doing. Other organizations that are doing similar kind of parallel tracks to what we're doing are all over the planet. And those organizations and this organization are becoming aware of each other as sort of nodes of large groups of humanity. And those nodes now get drawn together to form a master node. And everyone's puzzle pieces get fit together and start to create a picture of a reality that we all agree on, that we would love to live in. And with that, here we are, doing our part. And so, once again, here we have our headphones. Thank you all for being here and participating with me in this. And so, close your eyes, and here we go. So, thank you all again. Don't forget your mask in your closet. It's in there. Closet of your soul. Pull that mask out. Find it. Find it in yourself. And, you know, if it's too much for you at the time, then put your dark glasses on and put it on anyway. Get yourself together. Pull your community out. Go talk to the birds. Take your shoes and socks off. Springtime. Stick your feet on the grass. Ground yourself out to the planet. Pull out all the stops. All right. I'm going to leave the chat open for a few minutes, and I'll close it down after about 10 minutes, and we'll move off to Discord. Thank you all very much. Until next time.